What is up, everyone? My name is Michael Pohl with Bay Area Aquatics, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about why I think the box filter is the best all-around filter ever made. So before we get started with the video, I just wanted to hop in here real quick and say, check out www.bayareaaquatics.com. You can get awesome merch, check out our articles, and all that good jazz. And so now, back to the video. So a lot of people in the hobby don't use box filters, or when they think of box filters, they go, oh, that's old technology, that's outdated, we haven't used that in years. But it's actually one of my favorite filters to use. I use a ton of these. I have half a dozen of them across my half a dozen tanks, and I keep spares on hand, and I've tried a couple of different types of box filters, and I'm still trying new types every time I get a chance to order one, or have an excuse to order one, or if I see it on sale, I'll order another one and try it. I just think there's a lot of pros to a box filter that people don't think about. A lot of people look at them and think of it as old, outdated technology, and I actually really like these. These are my first choice in most of my tanks, just because of the flexibility that these have that a lot of people don't think about. Now, there are a lot of different types of filtration. There's hang-on back filtration, which I have on my 75 gallon here. I've got two AquaClear 110s. I like the hang-on back filters, and I'll talk a little bit more on why I like hang-on backs and box filters as a pair in just a minute. But I also use sponge filters. I've got a sponge filter in the tank, the shrimp tank that's sitting next to me. I've got sponge filters in all of my ponds. But in all of my breeding tanks, all of my quarantine tanks and that, I run box filters, and I think that these are just super flexible. Now, the biggest thing that I like about box filters is you can put pretty much anything you want in the filter. It's just a box, right? You can shove lava rock in here, you can shove ceramics in here, you can shove sponge, polyfill, whatever you want, and now you have a working filter. Now, where I think this comes especially handy, and where I think this is overlooked by a lot of people, is people that don't have the space for a quarantine tank to be set up full time, or an extra tank, or a breeding tank, or they might need an extra tank for whatever reason, and they might not have the space. Maybe you only have one or two tanks, and you don't want to have to, keep this whole extra setup. Box filters are really great, especially if you're running a hang-on back filter. So I can pull ceramic media out of my AquaClear 110, throw it in this box filter, throw this on an air pump, and now I have a working filter. That's really hard to beat, the flexibility of that. Versus like a sponge filter, which a lot of people recommend, like, oh, you should keep a sponge filter for your quarantine tank or backup tank or whatever. The problem with that is, unless you're going to run it in your tank full time, it's not going to be cycled. And I personally don't like the look of sponge filters in tanks. I'm kind of like gotten over it. It's filtration. It's what it is. But I know a lot of people that are new into the hobby that might have a little hang-on back filter, and they just don't want to, or they might want to quarantine a sick fish or whatever. And again, they don't want to have to deal with that whole cycling a sponge. Or if you're like me and you kind of impulsively buy fish without places to put them, and you're setting up a 5-gallon bucket or a 20-gallon storage tote or something like that where you need to just put fish in temporarily, you might not have an extra sponge filter. You might, oh, I'm already using that for my quarantine tank or whatever. With this, you can pull it out and you can use the media. And it's just super flexible. That's the biggest thing. It's flexible. And so many people look like, they just totally look over the box filters. Oh, that's old stuff. And that's really all I wanted to make this video about. Is I like these box filters, and I think more people should look into them. Now, one of the concerns that a lot of people have as well is the maintenance on them. And I know when I was talking about this video with Trent over at Well Done Tanks, he was like, I like box filters, I keep meaning to get one to play with, but my concern is the maintenance versus a sponge filter. And it's all about how you set the box filter up. I've set up box filters where I have a lot of polyfill in it, right? If I'm really trying to get that water clear, then throw the polyfill in it, make sure it's very clear, changing that out every week, no big deal. In my breeding tanks, where I'm not super concerned if the water's like crystal clear, like in my 75 behind me, I like this water to be crystal clear. I clean out the polyfill a couple times a week, change it constantly. I want as much out of the water as possible. But for my box filters, in a breeding setup or a quarantine tank, I'm not super concerned about that. So a lot of times I just actually throw ceramic media in here, and I don't even run any polyfill. So it's just ceramic balls sitting in this box filter, and you can see the gunk catch up into the box filter. And it just kind of collects there and gets stuck. Some of it obviously gets through the really fine particles, but the majority of the mold and stuff actually does get sucked up into this. And it doesn't clog as quick if you're not running like a super fine polyfill or a sponge or anything like that. Now, if you wanted, obviously, you could. But I know a lot of people that clean their sponge filters every week. So this wouldn't be that big of a difference of a maintenance. I'd actually rather pull this out, pop the lid open, swap the polyfill, and then put it back in. Because the other thing that a lot of people forget about, and they complain about with sponge filters all the time, is when you pull a sponge filter out, all that debris gets everywhere, right? And even when you use a bag, right? The bag's kind of a pain in the butt to get underneath the sponge filter. It moves, it kicks up debris everywhere. If you've used a sponge filter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have that with these because everything's up at the top. So when I pull this out, it cuts off right here at the lid. And so there's still water in this filter, and all the mold and debris stay in this filter. I get very, very little excess overflow, unless I'm like pulling it sideways and trying to get through. But if you're not super like rough with it and you just kind of pick it up and out of the tank, you don't have all that debris everywhere. It takes all the debris out with it. And then you can dump it into a bucket, clean it out, do whatever. And I actually prefer these because I find they're serviced a lot quicker than a sponge filter. But again, that's just me and the way that I clean. It also depends a little bit on the style of box filter. So like this one, there's no vents on the side. It's still got the little container piece, but it's got a different style of setup. This is one of the little, I think it's an Aqua Papa or whatever. It's the no-name Chinese corner box filter that's super standard. This is the Lee's small box filter, the triple flow. I really like these ones. I run these in all of my tanks that I run box filters in. So yeah, I can already see the camera is at 10 minutes of recording, and I'm just probably rambling on at this point. But I kind of wanted to put this idea out there on having these box filters, even just as a spare filter sitting on the shelf. They're not expensive. They're not hard to get. They're powered off of air, just like a sponge filter. They're just nice to have, especially for beginners, as just a backup filtration system. Maybe your power goes out and you have a hang-on back filter. You can get like a USB air pump. You can put your hang-on back filter filtration media in here, plug the air filter into it, and then run that during the power outage. Or something like, just weird cases, worst comes to worst. My power's not out for that long, but I know some people that their power goes out for a day or two, and that can be pretty bad on a fish tank. This could be a problem or a solution to fixing that. So that's just my opinion on box filters. Like I said, I think they're way overlooked in the hobby. I think more people should be using them, and I really like them. I think a lot of people give them a lot of crap. So let me know what your opinion on it is in the comments down below. If you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I upload a video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you know what to do. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.